Tool might have been some kind of scribing tool, the one on the left. It's the man on the right with his blunderbuss and that device in his left hand to steady it as the man in the center is doing. Just in the Roman fashion, line up huge phalanxes of men against each other and start blasting away. Just do a rough pan over this just to generally see it. Some clay pipes. Some places in the world I've been, clay pipes just dominate the archaeology record. Some kind of spade. Of course, the devices that will rip your arm off. And it looks like those were hollow, so they could contain perhaps some kind of powder.
Actually, I think these are two armies meeting. They meet at a point about 2/3 from the left side. On the left side is the Roman phalanx strategy. On the right side, I believe, are riflemen, followed by ranks of pikemen.
Here's an old painting of the castle in ruined state. And this might well have been a common room or a room for audience. We've climbed up in this rebuilt castle to the next level, but you can see there's a substantial level above us. This room is dedicated to the clothing of the time, so we'll take a close look at that. Is that what it looks like it is? Look at the intricacy of the designs. The kind of shoes in the day, but look at this one standing almost as high as some women might dare to wear them today. And there the bustle, long stockings, various kinds of ribbons that women might wear as decoration. Has a built-in lumbar support. Now we're 2 floors below where we were in this reconstructed castle. Look at the size of this dainty little device. But in its day, it was a big-time technology. I think without being sure, this is kind of like those little flip books, only it's frame by frame, of how you would use this big blunderbuss. Probably bullet molds. How this helmet had not only a place where you could stick a flag that probably indicated which side you were on, and I don't know what that device in the back would have held, although that would have been in the front. And here to cover your neck, whether that's made of leather or not, I don't know. I think is a portrayal of the lines of fire and crossfire in Falade, I think, or something like that, from installations on the banks opposite the fortress, getting anything that tries to come upstream in a boat. It must have had one hell of a kick. But it looks like one of those howitzers in a gun. And this, a small version. But of such a gun, as primitive as it is for cowards like me, is that it gives me distance. I don't have to stand point to point with a swordsman. Now we're in the basement of the new castle, which looks pretty authentic. rough, hardy, not the same refinement I saw in the brick buildings at Napoleon's house in Kaunas. But probably, since it's nice and cool down here, it may well have been for storage. We've climbed up these stairway, which is impressive, relatively speaking, into what I assume was the main quarters of the Duke or whoever owned the place. Booty's on first. Entered through this door, and this probably was a main room with this giant fireplace. This may have been a waiting room. You see a whole series of rooms. Very little interpretation here, but one can imagine, like we've seen in other places, that we can read this interpretive sign. This was rebuilt not too long ago, as you can tell by looking at it. So I'm sure over time, who's ever responsible will install more and more information. But they've done a nice job of creating a tourist-based site. Resting bed, I assume we lie from left to right, unless they were really short people. Here are the tapestries that were allegedly to help keep castles warmer. Not quite sure if that worked or not, but they also added great decoration. They were short, but very, very elaborate carved beds. In its day, its colors would have been far more vibrant. And since it's very expensive to make these, it would have had that art value. This is a quaint little piece of memorabilia. Was it an alchemist, a pharmacist, a cosmetician? The view is all about. Looks like this fireplace is extant. 1596. Think of the things it has seen. And yet I can carry more culture in the way of paintings, music, literature in my little pocket in my iPhone than they could reasonably fill up this place with. With the old castle ruins, which probably were kept just for raw nostalgia purposes. Toilet, which usually meant they had a chute on the outside of the castle, which usually dumped into a moat if there was one. Interesting hardware, all iron, heavy iron. And that would pivot up there, but what would pivot with it? Perhaps these were cranes and similar things that were used to make this, or maybe this had something to do with metallurgy. For example, that device down there, the long one on the right, might be some kind of mold. Although that's a mighty heavy spear. Notice these are two arms that appear to be identical, with an axle at each end, or end of each one, suggesting it pivoted in something. These are. All the look of a carriage or a room or stables. But I don't think so. But it's got a more refined floor than the other basement areas, so who knows. Also been a place for grooming the horses, keeping wagons mobile. The doors suggest horses. Kitchen. That probably went to a well. So you would lower down a bucket and into the well, and well, no, it was just used to haul stuff up here, apparently. Old record player? No. Okay, this is a small grinding device. So you turn that handle around like that, and the stuff may pour it down through this little hole or this hole here, and it would grind.